Have you considered storing charcoal as part of your emergency fuel supply?
Hi, I'm Kylene.
And I'm Jonathan, and we are the Provident Preppers.
Backyard barbecues are the source of many fond memories and good times. Let's talk about storing charcoal briquettes as part of your emergency fuel supply.
Charcoal briquettes are fairly inexpensive, and they will last indefinitely if you store them correctly. In this video, we will talk about the different kinds of charcoal briquettes that you can use, how many you will need for your family, and the best way to store them. Stay tuned. Charcoal is really a very practical emergency outdoor cooking fuel, and we're going to talk about that in this video. This is based on the post Charcoal, Inexpensive Fuel for Outdoor Emergency Cooking. Please go take a look at that.
Charcoal is a very versatile cooking fuel. If you look on the left-hand side, that is a cardboard box covered with aluminum foil that we've created a charcoal reflector oven with, and it is very inexpensive. Then on the top, we have a Dutch oven inside of a volcano, which is a fabulous way to be able to cook and to cook for a lot of people. The cob cooker on the lower right-hand corner is great for just a few people and is highly energy efficient. When disaster strikes, as long as you're using it outdoors, you can use charcoal as a fuel in many applications. What exactly is charcoal? Charcoal is wood that has been slowly burned with very little oxygen, and it turns into carbon. The process allows the charcoal briquettes to burn hotter than wood and produce less smoke. If you look, we are showing 3 different varieties down at the bottom. On the left, you have your original briquettes, and then you have natural briquettes in the center, and then the lump charcoal on the right-hand side. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Charcoal briquettes are made from wood byproducts and compressed with additives into a uniform shape and size. You can also buy charcoal briquettes in the natural form, which are just compressed without these additives. Standard charcoal briquettes may contain any of the following. They could have wood char, mineral carbon, sawdust, coal, nitrate, starch, borax, limestone, and that sounds like a lot of additives, and it is, but these ingredients provide the fuel, they control the rate of burn, they facilitate lighting, and they hold the briquette together. They're inexpensive and they will store indefinitely. Charcoal briquettes take about 20 to 25 minutes to reach cooking temperature, but they burn longer and cleaner than the natural charcoal. The uniform briquettes make temperature control simple and consistent, and they take up less storage space. Hardwood lump charcoal is a favorite of many backyard enthusiasts because it is fantastic for grilling meats, because it sears the outside with nice, really hot temperatures. It burns hotter than the charcoal briquettes, but it doesn't burn as long. It's not as easy to store because all of the different sizes and shapes make it take up more space in storage. If you are storing charcoal for emergency purposes, charcoal briquettes may be a better option. Charcoal briquettes and lump charcoal have an indefinite shelf life and are great options for emergency cooking. Charcoal briquettes are just a bit easier to use.
How much charcoal should you store? Well, that's going to depend on several things, including your cooking device, the kinds of foods that you are going to be cooking, the type of charcoal that you're storing, and of course the number of meals that you're going to be cooking. Conservation is always important when we're talking about fuels and having to store fuels.
Because you have limited resources, right?
Exactly,
and
right.
The less you use, the longer you can stretch your fuel storage out.
And you can see we have 3 devices shown here. The one on the left is just your standard little barbecue, and it uses quite a bit of charcoal. The other 2, the one in the middle and the one on the right, are more efficient. They've been designed to be more efficient, and these are the kinds of devices that you would probably want to use if this is something you're going to do for your emergency fuel and cooking needs.
The cob cooker takes only 8 to 10 briquettes to do the same 60-minute job of cooking. And the EcoQ grill, same thing, a lot less charcoals than it takes to do a standard grill.
Right. Your food choices will make a big difference in the amount of fuel that you need. You can see this nice pot of white chili here. That can be created with the beans on the left, which are canned beans, or with the dry beans that are on the right. The dry beans are going to take a lot more energy to get them to a meal. These are some of the things that you will be considering as you make these decisions.
And either one is fine, right? It's fine to store whichever one you want. You just need to make sure that you calculate the fuel appropriately for the types of foods that you have stored.
As we talk about the type of charcoal that you're storing, we've already mentioned this a little bit. You can see here for the original briquettes, we counted out piles of 24, which is what you would need for a 12-inch Dutch oven. This bag of charcoal briquettes will create 16 meals, and there's about 18 briquettes per pound. In this case, we're looking at the natural briquettes, which also created 16 meals using that same 24 briquettes. In this bag, the briquettes are about 22 briquettes per pound, so a little bit lighter, but you still get the same number of meals out of each of these bags.
One of the things that's important to note about the natural briquettes is they don't burn quite as long as the original briquettes do. So you've got a little bit less than an hour worth of burn time, where the original you actually have just a little bit more than an hour of burn time, but it's very similar.
You can see here a table that we created showing about the numbers of briquettes that you would need. We've highlighted the 12-inch Dutch oven because that's the one that we have used previously. You can see that a 12-inch Dutch oven is generally about 6 quarts of food. You need about 24 briquettes to accomplish your cooking. Using those figures, you can see that a year's supply of this fuel, well, you would need about a little more than 3 bags if you're cooking once a week. If you're cooking 3 times a week, you're going to need about 10 bags. If you're going to cook 5 times a week, you need about 16 bags. If you're going to cook with this 7 days a week, you're going to need about 23 bags.
As you're planning your fuel storage, it's best to diversify and use other types of fuel depending on the circumstances. But this will help you to calculate the number of times that you plan to use the charcoal in your emergency cooking and how long you want to do it for.
For example, we really enjoy using solar cookers, but there are times when you're just not going to be able to use that. So this provides an excellent backup for that situation. We should also mention the weather that you're cooking in is going to influence the number of briquettes that you need. And always remember that this is an outdoor cooking only. This is not something to be done in the garage. This has to be done outside because it produces massive amounts of carbon monoxide, which is deadly. So why should you store charcoal? Well, we've got several reasons here that we want to mention. It is safe to store.
Yeah, it's not combustible or explosive like some of the other fuels.
Exactly. It does have an indefinite shelf life. Now you need to make sure that you store it so that it stays dry, but it does have an indefinite shelf life. It burns really hot and with very little smoke, and it does store fairly compactly, and it's convenient to use.
Charcoal stored in original bags will absorb moisture over the time, and that pretty much renders them useless. If you live in a fairly dry climate, you can store them in these bags for a couple years and be just fine. But if you are looking at storing charcoal as a long-term emergency fuel source, you may want to take a few extra precautions to make sure that you keep those coals dry.
One way we have stored charcoal is using the barrel that you can see on the left. We put entire bags of charcoal in there and seal them up tight. You could also use a plastic garbage can.
Or a metal garbage can.
A metal garbage can. Just anything that will help to keep that dry.
Another way that we have stored our charcoal briquettes that works really well is in repurposed plastic buckets. This is a great way to use those buckets that you can't store food in because they're not food grade or they've held different things that could contaminate your food. It's just fine to use them for charcoal briquettes. These are repurposed laundry buckets. As you can see, the lids didn't seal quite tight. We actually caulked those lids shut so that it would be moisture and airtight. Each one of these buckets are about 15 pounds and they hold 240 briquettes each. By knowing exactly how much was in each bucket, it made it very easy to calculate exactly how much fuel and how many meals that would provide for us. We used some of these charcoals for the photo shoot that we did on cooking with charcoal, and they worked great. They were just as good as the brand new charcoals.
At 14 years old.
Yeah.
I was excited and surprised. That was fun. If your charcoals have absorbed some moisture, and you will know it because they will have a very, very difficult time lighting, you can put them out on a hot, dry, sunny day, and the moisture will pull back out of them and they will be recharged.
Now that you know, we want you to get out there and enjoy practicing cooking with charcoal. create all kinds of different fun meals. And our next video is all of the really cool devices that you can use charcoal to cook with.
And you won't need to have all these devices.
No, you don't. You don't.
But you can choose one or two.
And it's fun. It builds memories and traditions. And isn't that the feeling that you want when disaster strikes? A feeling of comfort and familiarity. So get out there and practice using your charcoal.
Here are some great resources that we hope that you'll take a look at. Where can I safely store popular fuels for emergencies? Also, expected storage life for emergency fuels. And how to safely store fuels for emergencies. These are some great resources. We hope that you'll look at our show notes and that you'll visit our site. There's a massive amount of information there. Go to providentprepper.org.
The best approach to storing fuel for emergencies is to diversify that fuel supply. Charcoal is a wonderful fuel to add to your fuel storage arsenal. It's inexpensive, it will store indefinitely, and it is safe to store. Consider adding it to your fuel storage today.
And now for the question of the day. What experience do you have storing charcoal or using it as an emergency backup supply?
Comment below, and thanks for being part of the solution.